Chapter 1. The Toast That Changed Everything. The restaurant hummed with warmth and laughter. A cozy refuge from the biting December chill outside. Strings of golden lights draped across the ceiling like captured stars. And the faint scent of rosemary and butter drifted from the kitchen. It was the kind of place where conversations felt softer, where champagne flutes clinked like promises. Mike adjusted his tie for the third time, though it didn't need adjusting. He wasn't nervous, at least not in the way people usually were at celebrations. Tonight was Stephanie's night. Her graduation dinner. Her victory lap after 4 years of relentless effort. He'd watched her burn through textbooks and deadlines, seen her cry over research papers at 2 in the morning, and he'd been there, always there, quietly holding the world steady so she could climb. And now she had Stephanie Rogers, college graduate, soon-to-be marketing associate at a firm she dreamed about since sophomore year. Mike smiled at her across the table, his chest swelling with pride. She looked radiant in her emerald dress, her hair swept up in a way that made her neck look impossibly graceful. She laughed at something her best friend said, tossing her head back, and Mike thought, God, I love her. He wasn't the kind of man who needed credit. He didn't tally favors or keep score. But tonight, as he sipped his water and listened to the chatter around him, he felt something stir, a quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, she'd acknowledge him when she gave her speech. Not for glory, just recognition. A simple nod that said, I see you. I know what you did for me. Mike! Stephanie's father boomed from the other end of the table, jolting him from his thoughts. You try the steak yet? Best in the city. Mike grinned. Not yet, sir. Saving room for dessert. Dessert? Stephanie's mom chimed in. You mean that chocolate tower thing? I saw it on the menu. Looks sinful. Stephanie laughed. Mom, you can't even finish a brownie without saying it's too rich. The table erupted in laughter, and Mike joined in, though his mind wandered back to the speech. He'd seen her scribbling notes earlier, tapping her pen against her lip in that way she did when she was deep in thought. He imagined her saying something like, and to Mike, who kept me sane and caffeinated through every exam, he'd smile, maybe blush, and everyone would clap. It wasn't much, but it mattered. The waiter appeared with a tray of champagne flutes, and Stephanie stood, her chair scraping softly against the polished floor. Conversations hushed. All eyes turned to her. Mike's heart thudded once, hard. Stephanie raised her glass, her smile bright enough to rival the lights above. First, she began, her voice clear and confident. Thank you all for being here tonight. It means the world to celebrate this milestone with the people I love most. A chorus of cheers. Glasses lifted. I couldn't have done this without support, she continued. Mom, Dad, thank you for always believing in me. Even when I doubted myself, you never let me quit. Her parents beamed, misty-eyed. To my friends, Stephanie said, turning toward the cluster of women who had been her lifeline during finals week. Thank you for talking me down from every meltdown and reminding me that sleep is not optional. Laughter rippled through the group. Mike smiled, remembering those nights. Stephanie pacing the apartment, phone pressed to her ear, whispering frantic theories about marketing models while he reheated leftovers. And to everyone who cheered me on, she finished, her voice softening. I'm so grateful. She lowered her glass. The table erupted in applause. Stephanie sat, cheeks flushed with happiness, and conversation resumed like a river breaking through a dam. Mike clapped too, his smile fixed in place. But inside, something cracked, small, sharp, and startling. She hadn't mentioned him. Not once. Not even a passing thank you to my fiancé for keeping me sane. For years of late nights, extra shifts, proofread essays, and quiet sacrifices, erased in a blink. He told himself it didn't matter. She loved him. She said yes when he proposed. They were planning a wedding. But as laughter swirled around him, Mike felt a weight settle in his chest, a question he'd never asked before. Does she really see me? Or am I just the scaffolding she climbed to reach her dream? Mike, Stephanie said suddenly, turning to him with that dazzling smile. You okay? You're quiet. He forced a grin, just enjoying the moment. She squeezed his hand under the table, oblivious to the storm brewing behind his calm eyes. Best night ever, she whispered. Mike nodded, his throat tight. Yeah, he said softly. Best night ever. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of clinking glasses and shared desserts. Mike laughed in all the right places, even cracked a joke about the waiter's dramatic flourish when serving the chocolate tower. But inside, he was somewhere else, standing at the edge of a question that scared him more than anything. If she doesn't love me the way I love her, what's the point? When they finally stepped out into the crisp night air, snowflakes drifting like tiny feathers, Stephanie looped her arm through his and sighed happily. Can you believe it? I'm officially a college graduate. Mike smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Yeah, he said. I can believe it. And for the first time since he met her, he wondered if forever was as certain as he thought. Chapter 2. The drive home. The night air was sharp enough to sting, but Stephanie didn't seem to notice. She practically floated out of the restaurant, her heels clicking against the pavement like applause. Mike followed, keys in hand, his breath puffing in small clouds. Snowflakes clung to his coat collar, melting into tiny dark spots. Best night ever, Stephanie said again, looping her arm through his as they crossed the parking lot. Her cheeks were flushed from champagne and happiness. I still can't believe it's over. For years. Gone. Mike smiled faintly. Yeah, you did it. She squeezed his arm. We did it, she corrected, then laughed. Well, mostly me. But you know what I mean. Mike's grip on the keys tightened. Do I? He unlocked the car, and they slid inside, the heater humming to life with a low whir. Stephanie kicked off her heels and sighed like someone who just conquered Everest. God, my feet, she groaned, wiggling her toes. I swear these shoes were designed by a sadist. Mike chuckled softly, starting the engine. You picked them. They were cute. She grinned, then leaned back, scrolling through her phone. Mom already posted like 20 pictures. I look like a bobblehead in half of them. Mike pulled out of the lot, headlights slicing through the dark. The city glittered ahead, festive and alive. But inside the car, silence stretched like a taut string. Stephanie hummed along to the radio, oblivious. Mike kept his eyes on the road, his thoughts looping like a broken record. She didn't mention me. Not once. 4 years and I'm invisible. Traffic's not bad, Stephanie said, glancing up. Guess everyone's still out partying. Yeah, Mike murmured. She tilted her head. You okay? You've been quiet. I'm fine, he said quickly, too quickly. He forced a smile. Just tired. Stephanie reached over and brushed his arm. You were amazing tonight. Kept everyone laughing. My dad thinks you're hilarious. Mike gave a short laugh. Glad someone does. Stephanie frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, he said, eyes fixed on the glowing green of the next light. Just glad he had a good time. She studied him for a moment, then shrugged, turning back to her phone. Anyway, I was thinking brunch tomorrow? My friends want to celebrate again. You in? Mike hesitated. The thought of another round of laughter and chatter, of sitting quietly while Stephanie basked in the spotlight, made his stomach knot. Maybe, he said. We'll see. Stephanie blinked. We'll see? You love brunch. I love pancakes, Mike corrected, his tone lighter than he felt. Brunch is just the delivery system. She laughed, the sound bright and easy, and for a second, Mike almost let the tension go. Almost. But then the image of her standing at that table, thanking everyone but him, flashed like a neon sign behind his eyes. The GPS chimed suddenly, its robotic voice mangling the street name. Turn left on, Klusterstraat. Stephanie snorted. What did it just say? Klusterstraat. Mike cracked a smile despite himself. Sounds like a dance move. Do the Klusterstraat. Stephanie sang, shimmying in her seat. Step, step, awkward turn, fall into a snowbank. Mike laughed, the sound easing some of the weight in his chest. This was them, their rhythm, their inside jokes. But even as he laughed, the question lingered like a shadow. Does she really see me? They drove on, the city thinning into quiet streets lined with frosted trees. Stephanie chatted about her new job, her voice bubbling with excitement. I start in 2 weeks. Can you believe it? I already have a Pinterest board for office outfits. Mike nodded, offering the right noises at the right times, but his mind was elsewhere. On late nights hunched over her essays, on extra shifts he'd picked up to cover rent, on the ring burning a hole in his savings account. He'd done it all gladly. But tonight, for the first time, he wondered if love was enough when gratitude was missing. When they pulled into their apartment complex, Stephanie stretched, yawning. Home sweet home, she said, gathering her heels and clutch. God, I'm starving again. Think we have leftover pizza? Mike killed the engine. Probably. Stephanie grinned. You're the best. Mike stared at her for a beat, the words landing hollow. He wanted to believe them. He really did. Inside, the apartment was warm and familiar, smelling faintly of cinnamon from the candle Stephanie had lit earlier. She tossed her heels by the door and padded toward the kitchen, humming. Mike followed, loosening his tie. Want some? She called, pulling the pizza box from the fridge. Sure, Mike said, sinking onto a stool at the counter. Stephanie popped the slices into the oven, then leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone again. Everyone's still texting about tonight. Mom says Dad cried during my speech. Mike's jaw tightened. Yeah, it was a good speech. Stephanie smiled. You think so? Yeah, he said, forcing his voice steady. Real good. She beamed, oblivious to the undertow in his tone. I was so nervous. My hands were shaking. Mike stared at the countertop, tracing a faint scratch with his thumb. He wanted to say it, wanted to ask why she hadn't mentioned him, why she'd erased him from the story they'd built together. But the words stuck like ice in his throat. Tonight was her night. He wouldn't ruin it. Stephanie slid a plate toward him, steam curling from the pizza. You look pale. Mike managed to smile. Just tired, he said again. Stephanie kissed his cheek lightly, then curled up on the couch with her phone. Best night ever, she murmured. Mike watched her for a long moment, then turned back to his plate. And for the first time since he met her, he wondered if forever was as certain as he thought. Chapter 3. The morning after. Mike woke to the smell of cinnamon and coffee, the kind of cozy scent that usually meant a good day ahead. But today it felt like a cruel joke. He lay still for a moment, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the heater and the soft clink of dishes from the kitchen. Stephanie was up early, probably riding the high of last night's celebration. He wasn't. Not even close. Rolling out of bed, Mike padded to the bathroom, splashed cold water on his face, and stared at his reflection. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep could fix, the kind that settled deep like roots. He thought about the speech again. The way her voice had softened when she thanked her parents. The laughter when she mentioned her friends. And then, nothing. No mention of him. No acknowledgement of the man who had rearranged his entire life so she could chase hers. Mike gripped the edge of the sink. Maybe I'm overreacting, he told himself. Maybe it was just an oversight. But the thought didn't stick. Oversights didn't happen after 5 years together. Oversights didn't happen when someone mattered. He dressed slowly, pulling on a worn t-shirt and jeans, and wandered into the kitchen. Stephanie stood at the counter, hair in a messy bun, wearing his old college sweatshirt. She looked beautiful in that effortless way that made his chest ache. She was humming, flipping through her phone with one hand while buttering toast with the other. "Morning," she chirped, flashing him a smile. "Coffee's ready." Mike managed a nod. "Thanks." He poured himself a mug, the steam curling like question marks. Stephanie slid a plate toward him. 2 slices of toast, golden and perfect. "Eat," she said. "You need energy for brunch." Mike blinked. "Brunch?" "Yeah." Her eyes lit up. "The girls want to celebrate again. We're meeting at that cafe downtown. You love their pancakes." Mike stared at the toast. "Right?" Stephanie frowned. "You don't sound excited." "I'm tired," Mike said, taking a sip of coffee. "Last night was a lot." Stephanie laughed softly. "It was amazing. Everyone had such a good time." Mike forced a smile. "Yeah, amazing." She studied him for a moment, then shrugged, turning back to her phone. "Anyway, I told them we'd be there at 11. Mike bit back a sigh. Like his presence was a given. Like he didn't need a moment to breathe, to untangle the knot in his chest. He stared at the toast, then reached for the butter knife, spreading another layer just to keep his hands busy. The knife slipped, clattering against the plate. Mike muttered under his breath, grabbed another slice, and popped it into the toaster. He needed something warm, something comforting. The toaster hummed, and Mike leaned against the counter, staring at the glowing coils like they held answers. Stephanie glanced up. "You okay?" "Fine," Mike said. "Just hungry." The toaster dinged. Mike grabbed the slice, only to realize he'd left it in too long. The bread was charred, blackened at the edges like a tiny piece of coal. He stared at it, then let out a short, humorless laugh. Stephanie raised an eyebrow. "Wow, that's artisanal." Mike smirked. "Charcoal chic. Very trendy." Stephanie giggled, and for a second, the tension cracked. "You're ridiculous." Mike shrugged, biting into the burnt toast anyway. It tasted bitter, but he chewed in silence, his thoughts louder than the crunch. He wanted to tell her. Wanted to say, "You forgot me last night. You made me feel invisible." But the words tangled in his throat. He didn't want to start a fight. He didn't want to ruin her happiness. Stephanie set her phone down and leaned against the counter, watching him. "You sure you're okay?" Mike swallowed hard. "Yeah," he said. "Just tired." She smiled softly. "You've been amazing, you know that? Through everything." Mike froze. The words were close, so close to what he needed. But they felt vague, like a compliment tossed into the wind. He forced a smile. "Thanks." Stephanie grinned, oblivious to the storm brewing behind his calm. "Brunch will cheer you up. Pancakes solve everything." Mike chuckled weakly. "We'll see." The drive to the cafe was quiet, punctuated by Stephanie's occasional humming and Mike's clipped responses. The city was bright under a pale winter sun, snow glittering like crushed diamonds. People bustled along sidewalks, bundled in scarves, laughing as they ducked into warm shops. It should have felt festive. Didn't. Mike gripped the steering wheel, his mind looping back to the same question. Does she really love me the way I love her? Or am I just the guy who made her life easier? Stephanie scrolled through her phone, smiling at messages. "Everyone's so excited," she said. "They adore you, you know?" Mike forced a laugh. "Yeah, I'm a hit." She glanced at him, brow furrowing. "Seriously, what's going on? You've been weird since last night." Mike hesitated, the words clawing at his throat. "Say it. Tell her." But then Stephanie's phone buzzed, and she lit up like a Christmas tree. "Oh my God. Jenna just got engaged. Look at this ring." Mike swallowed hard, the moment slipping away like water through his fingers. He kept his eyes on the road, his jaw tight. The cafe was bustling, warm air scented with syrup and coffee. Stephanie's friends waved from a corner booth, their voices bright and bubbly. Mike plastered on a smile, sliding into the seat beside Stephanie. The chatter swirled around him, wedding plans, job offers, vacation dreams. He laughed when expected, nodded at the right times, But inside, he was somewhere else entirely. When the pancakes arrived, Mike stared at the golden stack, drowning in syrup. It looked perfect, tasted like nothing. Stephanie nudged him playfully. See? Pancakes fix everything. Mike smiled faintly. Almost everything. She laughed, oblivious, and Mike wondered how long he could keep pretending. Chapter 4. Blissfully unaware, Stephanie Rogers was glowing. Not metaphorically, actually glowing like someone had plugged her into a socket. She sat cross-legged on her parents' couch, still wearing Mike's old sweatshirt, scrolling through photos from last night. Every picture was a little victory. Her in that emerald dress, her friends laughing, her parents beaming like proud lanterns. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. She grinned at a shot of Mike, caught mid-laugh with her dad. He looked so handsome in that navy suit, his tie just slightly crooked in that way she secretly loved. God, she was lucky. 5 years together and he still made her heart flip like a gymnast. Steph, her mom called from the kitchen, voice muffled by the clatter of dishes. You want tea? Sure, Stephanie shouted back, still scrolling. Her mom's captions were hilarious. My baby girl is a graduate. Hashtag proud mom, hashtag brains and beauty. Stephanie snorted. Her mom had discovered hashtags last year and never looked back. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jenna. Brunch was amazing. Mike is such a sweetheart. You're lucky, girl. Stephanie smiled, typing back a quick heart emoji. Lucky didn't even begin to cover it. Mike was her anchor, her safe place, her everything. She couldn't imagine life without him. Tea. Her mom appeared with 2 steaming mugs, settling beside her on the couch. You were incredible last night. That speech. Oh, honey, you had your father in tears. Stephanie laughed. He cries at car commercials. Her mom waved a hand. Still counts. Stephanie sipped her tea, warm and sweet. It was a good night. The best. Her mom agreed. And Mike, oh, that man. He's a gem. Stephanie grinned. I know. Her mom shook her head, eyes soft. You know, we were talking after you left. How much he's done for you. All those extra hours at work, helping with your papers. I don't know how he managed. Stephanie blinked, the words landing like a pebble in a still pond. Ripples spread slowly. Yeah, she said, her voice lighter than she felt. He's amazing. Her mom patted her knee. You're lucky, Steph. Men like that don't come around often. Stephanie nodded, but her smile faltered. She thought back to last night, her speech, the laughter, the clinking glasses. She'd thanked her parents, her friends, everyone who had cheered her on. Except Mike. Her stomach dipped, a sudden hollow ache. She hadn't mentioned him. Not once. Stephanie set her mug down, her pulse quickening. How had she missed that? Mike was the reason she was celebrating. He'd been there through everything. Late nights, meltdowns, ramen dinners when money was tight. He'd proofread essays, research topics, worked overtime so she could focus on school. He was the foundation of her success. And she'd stood there, smiling like an idiot, and acted like he didn't exist. Oh my God, Stephanie whispered. Her mom frowned. What? Stephanie pressed a hand to her forehead. I didn't thank him. In my speech. I didn't even mention him. Her mom blinked. Really? Stephanie groaned, sinking back against the couch. I was so nervous, and then I started talking about mom and dad and my friends, and, oh my God, he must think I don't appreciate him. Her mom's face softened. Honey, I'm sure he knows. Knows what? That I'm a self-absorbed idiot. Stephanie buried her face in her hands. He's probably furious. Her mom hesitated. He didn't seem upset. Because he's Mike. Stephanie threw her hands up. He doesn't make scenes. He just smiles and suffers in silence. Her mom winced. Well, maybe call him? Explain. Stephanie shook her head, panic rising. No, I need to do more than call. I need to fix this. Her mom patted her knee again. Sweetheart, it was a mistake. A huge mistake, Stephanie muttered. If the roles were reversed, I'd be devastated. Her mom sighed. We all should have said something. We didn't even thank him ourselves. Stephanie stared at her, horrified. You didn't. Her mom grimaced. We were caught up in the excitement. Stephanie groaned louder. So basically, the entire room acted like he was invisible. Her mom bit her lip. When you put it that way, Stephanie flopped back against the cushions, nausea curling in her gut. She pictured Mike at the table, smiling politely while everyone toasted her, while she stood there erasing him from the story they'd built together. The thought made her chest ache. Her dad wandered in, newspaper under his arm. What's all the groaning about? Stephanie sat up, eyes blazing. I forgot to thank Mike in my speech. Her dad blinked. Oh, Stephanie repeated, incredulous. Dad, he supported me for 4 years, paid the bills, helped with school, kept me sane. And I acted like he didn't exist. Her dad frowned. Well, that's not great. Stephanie threw a pillow at him. Not great? It's catastrophic. Her dad caught the pillow, looking sheepish. We didn't thank him either. Stephanie gaped. Seriously? Her dad shrugged. We were proud of you. Stephanie groaned again, collapsing against the couch. He's going to leave me. Her mom snorted. He's not going to leave you. You don't know that. Stephanie shot back. Men like Mike, quiet, steady, they don't explode. They just disappear. Her dad cleared his throat. Maybe do something nice for him? Stephanie sat up, eyes blazing with determination. Nice isn't enough. I need a grand gesture. Something that screams I see you. I love you. I'm an idiot, but please don't leave me. Her mom looked wary. Like what? Stephanie's mind raced. Dinner? Too small. A gift? Too impersonal. Party? Maybe. A thank you party. With everyone there. Public acknowledgment. Redemption. Her dad perked up. We could get him a power drill. Stephanie stared. A power drill? Her dad nodded sagely. Men love drills. Stephanie groaned. Dad, this is not a hardware store situation. Her mom chuckled. Start with an apology. Then plan your whatever. Stephanie nodded. Resolve hardening. I'll fix this. I have to. Her mom smiled softly. He loves you, Steph. Stephanie swallowed hard. I hope that's still true. Later, as Stephanie drove home, her thoughts churned like a storm. She pictured Mike's face last night, calm, smiling, but maybe too calm. She replayed every moment, searching for signs she'd missed. Had he been quieter than usual? Did his laugh sound forced? The more she thought about it, the more her stomach knotted. She gripped the steering wheel, determination sparking. She wouldn't let this mistake cost her the best thing in her life. Mike deserved more than words. He deserved proof. And Stephanie Rogers was about to deliver. Chapter 5, The Family Intervention. Stephanie Rogers was on a mission. A desperate, caffeine-fueled mission to salvage her relationship before it crumbled like a stale cookie. She stormed into her parents' kitchen the next morning, hair still damp from the shower, eyes blazing with determination. Her mom looked up from the sink, startled. Steph? You okay? No, Stephanie declared, dropping her tote bag onto a chair. I'm a monster. Her dad peeked over the newspaper. Morning to you too. Stephanie paced the kitchen like a general plotting war. I forgot to thank Mike in my speech. The man who practically carried me through college. The man who worked overtime so I could study. The man who, oh my God, probably thinks I don't love him. Her mom winced. Honey, we talked about this yesterday. And I've been thinking about it all night, Stephanie said, throwing her hands up. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face at that table. Smiling, but not smiling. You know what I mean? Her dad folded the paper slowly. So, what's the plan? Stephanie slammed her palms on the counter. We fix this. All of us. Family intervention. Her mom blinked. Intervention? Yes. Stephanie grabbed a notepad and pen like a woman possessed. Ideas. Big ideas. Grand gestures. Something that screams, Mike, you're my world and I'm an idiot for making you feel invisible. Her dad cleared his throat. Power drill. Stephanie froze mid-scribble. Dad. He shrugged. Men love drills. Her mom rolled her eyes. Harold, this is not a hardware store situation. Her dad looked wounded. You don't know that. Stephanie groaned. No drills. No wrenches. No socket sets. This needs to be personal. Her mom tapped her chin thoughtfully. What about a spa day? Stephanie stared. For Mike. Her mom nodded. Men need pampering too. Stephanie pictured Mike in a fluffy robe, cucumber slices on his eyes, and snorted. Yeah, because nothing says I appreciate you like exfoliation. Her dad perked up. Fishing trip. Stephanie threw her pen down. Okay, new rule. No ideas that involve power tools or dead fish. Her mom chuckled. Fine. What about a party? Invite everyone from last night. Make a toast just for him. Stephanie's eyes widened. A thank you party. Her mom smiled. Public acknowledgement. Redemption. Stephanie felt a spark of hope. Yes, that's perfect. Her dad frowned. Can we still get him a drill? Stephanie groaned. Dad. An hour later, Stephanie sat at the dining table, surrounded by her parents and her best friend, Jenna, who had arrived in a whirlwind of perfume and opinions. This is bad, Jenna announced, tossing her coat onto a chair. Like Titanic bad. Stephanie glared. Thanks for the pep talk. Jenna plopped down, grabbing a cookie. I'm just saying men notice stuff like that. You gotta act fast. I know, Stephanie snapped. That's why we're planning Operation Mike. Jenna grinned. Catchy. Her mom slid a plate of cookies toward Jenna. We're thinking a party. Jenna perked up. Oh, I love parties. Can we have a theme? Like, Mike Appreciation Day? We could make t-shirts. Stephanie groaned. No t-shirts. Confetti. Jenna suggested. No confetti. Fine. Jenna huffed. But there better be cake. Stephanie scribbled furiously on her notepad. Cake yes. Speech yes. Decorations tasteful. Her dad muttered. Drill. Stephanie shot him a look. Dad. I swear. Okay. Okay, he said, holding up his hands. No drill. Jenna leaned in, eyes sparkling. You know what would really make him feel special? A slideshow. Pictures of all the stuff he did for you. Like, Mike holding your textbooks, Mike making dinner, Mike looking exhausted but still smiling. Stephanie paused, considering. That's actually brilliant. Her mom clapped her hands. I love it. Her dad frowned. Do we have pictures of him looking exhausted? Stephanie smirked. Plenty. Jenna grinned. Perfect. We'll make him cry. Stephanie's stomach twisted. I just hope he doesn't cry because he's breaking up with me. Her mom reached over, squeezing her hand. He loves you, Steph. He's just hurt. Stephanie nodded, but the knot in her chest didn't loosen. Then I'm going to fix it. Tonight. By the time Stephanie left her parents' house, her plan was set. A surprise thank you party at their apartment, complete with cake, slideshow, and a speech that would make Shakespeare weep. She texted Jenna to handle decorations, her mom to order the cake, and her dad, against her better judgment, to pick up extra chairs. Her phone buzzed with Jenna's reply. On it. Also, found a banner that says, You're the man. Thoughts? Stephanie groaned. Fine. Just no glitter. She drove home, her mind racing. Would Mike even want a party? Would he see it as genuine or desperate? The thought made her stomach flip, but she shoved it aside. She had to try. She couldn't lose him. Not over something so stupid, and yet so huge. When she walked into their apartment, Mike was on the couch, laptop open, a mug of coffee steaming beside him. He looked up, smiling faintly. Hey. Stephanie's heart squeezed. Hey, she said softly, dropping her bag. How was your day? Fine, he said, closing the laptop. Yours? Busy, she admitted, forcing a smile. Lots of planning. Mike raised an eyebrow. Planning? Stephanie hesitated, then grinned. You'll see, he chuckled, shaking his head. You're up to something. Stephanie crossed the room, leaning down to kiss his cheek. Always. But as she pulled away, she caught the flicker in his eyes. Quiet, guarded, like a door half closed. And her resolve hardened. She would break that door wide open. Tonight. Chapter 6. Mike's escape plan. Mike stared at the blinking cursor on his laptop screen like it held the answer to his life. Didn't. All it held was an empty document titled Budget 2026, which he'd opened an hour ago and promptly ignored. His mind wasn't on numbers. It was on last night. On Stephanie's laughter at brunch. On the way she'd kissed his cheek like everything was fine. Like he wasn't quietly unraveling inside. He closed the laptop with a sigh and grabbed his jacket. He needed air. Space. A neutral zone where he could think without the weight of her smile pressing on him. The coffee shop down the street was perfect. Quiet. Warm. Anonymous. He could sit in a corner, drink something overpriced, and figure out whether he was losing his mind or his relationship. The bell above the cafe door jingled as Mike stepped inside, greeted by the rich scent of espresso and the low hum of indie music. He ordered a large black coffee because if he was going to contemplate blowing up his life, he needed caffeine, and gave his name to the barista. Mick, she repeated, scribbling on the cup. Mike, he corrected. She nodded cheerfully. Mick, got it. Mike stared at her, then let it go. Fine, Mick, maybe I'll reinvent myself as Mick. Mick doesn't have existential crises in coffee shops. Mick probably owns a motorcycle and doesn't care if his fiancée forgets him in speeches. He sank into a corner booth, nursing his coffee like it held courage. Outside, snowflakes drifted lazily past the window, settling on parked cars like powdered sugar. Inside, Mike's thoughts churned like a storm. 5 years. That's how long they'd been together. 5 years of building a life, of planning a future. He'd proposed because he believed in forever, because Stephanie was his person. But last night had cracked something he didn't know could break. It wasn't just the speech. It was what it meant, or what he feared it meant. If she didn't think to thank me, does that mean she doesn't see me? Doesn't value me? Mike rubbed his temples, frustration simmering. He wasn't petty. He didn't need applause. But he needed something. A sign that his sacrifices mattered. That he mattered. He thought about the wedding plans, deposit paid, guest list drafted. He thought about the ring on her finger, the one he'd saved for months to buy. And for the first time, the thought crept in, quiet and terrifying. Maybe we shouldn't do this. The idea sat heavy in his chest, like a stone. He didn't want to leave her. God, he loved her. But love wasn't supposed to feel like invisibility. Love was supposed to be a partnership, not a one-sided marathon where he carried the weight and she took the victory lap. Mike stared into his coffee, the steam curling like question marks. Am I overreacting? Or finally waking up? Order for Mick, the barista called. Mike sighed, grabbing his cup. The name scrawled in bold black letters mocked him. Mick, a man with no problems. A man who didn't sit in coffee shops wondering if his fiancée loved him or just loved the life he made possible. He slid back into his seat, sipping the bitter brew. His phone buzzed, a text from Stephanie. Hey you, what do you want for dinner tonight? Thinking pasta. Mike stared at the screen, thumb hovering. He could reply like nothing was wrong. He could smile, eat pasta, keep pretending. Or he could tell her the truth, that he felt invisible, that last night gutted him, that he wasn't sure about forever anymore. His chest tightened. He typed, "Sounds good." Then deleted it. Typed, "We need to talk." Deleted that too. The bell above the door jingled again, and Mike glanced up automatically. Not Stephanie. Just a couple laughing, brushing snow from their coats. He envied them, their ease, their lightness. He used to feel that with Stephanie. When had it changed? Was it last night? Or had it been creeping in slowly, masked by routine and love and blind faith? Mike leaned back, closing his eyes. He pictured her smile, the way she said, "We did it," after graduation. He wanted to believe she meant it, that she saw him as part of her victory. But the speech said otherwise, and speeches mattered. Words mattered. His phone buzzed again. Another text. "Can't stop thinking about last night. Best night ever. Love you." Mike stared at the words until they blurred. He loved her too. That wasn't the problem. The problem was whether love was enough when gratitude was missing. He set the phone down, pressing his palms to his eyes. He needed clarity. He needed to know if this was fixable, or if he was about to blow up 5 years of history. An elderly man shuffled past, humming under his breath, and Mike caught a snippet of the tune. Something old, something wistful. It made him think of vows, of promises whispered under fairy lights. He'd pictured that moment 100 times. Stephanie in white, smiling at him like he was her whole world. But now the image felt fragile, like glass under pressure. Mike exhaled slowly, forcing the knot in his chest to loosen. He wasn't ready to make a decision. Not yet. But he knew one thing. He couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. He needed to talk to her. Really talk. No jokes, no distractions. Just honesty. He picked up his phone, thumb hovering again. "We need to talk." He typed it, stared at it, then hit send before he could chicken out. The message whooshed away, leaving a hollow ache in its wake. Mike drained the last of his coffee, grimacing at the bitterness. Mick would have ordered something sweet, he thought wryly. Mick wouldn't be sitting here wondering if his life was about to implode. Mike stood, pulling on his jacket. Snow swirled outside, soft and relentless. He stepped into the cold, the wind biting his cheeks, and headed home, toward a conversation that could change everything. Chapter 7. The misunderstandings begin. Stephanie Rogers was a woman on a mission, and missions required precision. She stood in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, hair pinned back, surrounded by chaos that looked vaguely like dinner. Pots simmered, the oven glowed, and a chocolate soufflé rose like a fragile promise behind the glass door. Tonight was the night, her redemption arc, the surprise thank you dinner that would erase last night's disaster and remind Mike he was her everything. She'd invited his parents, her parents, Jenna, and a handful of close friends. Nothing huge, just enough to make it clear that Mike was the star of the show. Stephanie checked her phone for the 10th time. No reply. She'd texted him an hour ago. "Don't be late tonight." Big surprise. Silence. Her stomach fluttered. Maybe he was busy. Maybe he was stuck in traffic. Maybe he was ignoring her because he hated her now. She shook the thought away, stirring the sauce with unnecessary vigor. "Positive vibes," she muttered. "This is going to fix everything." The soufflé timer beeped. Stephanie opened the oven, praying to every deity she could name. The dessert looked perfect, golden, puffed, delicate. She exhaled in relief, sliding it onto the counter like a newborn child. Her phone buzzed. She snatched it up, heart leaping. "Mike, hey, won't make it tonight. Need some space." Stephanie froze, the words burning her retinas. Need some space? Her pulse spiked. Her hands went clammy. The soufflé wobbled ominously. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She read the message again, hoping it would magically change. Didn't. Mike wasn't coming. Mike needed space. Mike was pulling away. Stephanie gripped the counter, nausea curling in her gut. She'd planned everything, the dinner, the slideshow, the speech that would make Shakespeare cry, and now he was bailing? Her mind spiraled. Was this it? Was he done? Was last night the beginning of the end? The soufflé collapsed with a soft sigh, like it had given up on life. Stephanie stared at it, horrified. "Same, buddy," she muttered. Meanwhile, across town, Mike sat in his car outside the gym, staring at his phone. He'd sent the text 20 minutes ago and hadn't looked since. Now, guilt gnawed at him like a persistent rat. He wasn't trying to hurt her. He just needed breathing room, space to think, space to figure out if he was making the biggest mistake of his life or just drowning in insecurity. His phone buzzed. He glanced down. Stephanie. Space? Seriously? After everything? Mike winced. He typed, deleted, typed again. "I just need time to think." He hit send, then tossed the phone onto the passenger seat like it was radioactive. He wasn't lying. He did need time. But the truth was Messier. He was scared. Scared that he'd built his life around someone who didn't see him. Scared that love wasn't enough when gratitude was missing. Scared that 5 years of history didn't guarantee a future. Mike rubbed his temples, frustration simmering. He hated drama. He hated conflict. But he hated feeling invisible more. Back at the apartment, Stephanie paced like a caged tiger, phone clutched in her hand. Her parents were due any minute. Jenna was bringing decorations. The slideshow was queued up on her laptop, ready to play. And Mike, the guest of honor, wasn't coming. She typed furiously, "Mike, please, just come home. We need to talk. I messed up. I know I did. Let me fix it." No reply. Stephanie groaned, collapsing onto the couch. Her mind replayed every moment from last night, every laugh, every clink of glasses. How had she been so blind? How had she not seen what he needed? She loved him. God, she loved him. And now she might lose him because she assumed he knew. The doorbell rang. Stephanie jolted upright. Jenna burst in, arms full of balloons and a banner that read, "You're the man," in bold letters. "Where's the guest of honor?" Jenna chirped, dropping the balloons. Stephanie stared at her, wild-eyed. "Not coming." Jenna froze. "What? Not coming?" Stephanie repeated, voice cracking. "He needs space." Jenna blinked. "Space? Like outer space?" Stephanie groaned. "Jenna." Jenna set the banner down gently. "Okay, deep breaths. We can fix this." Stephanie laughed hysterically. "Fix what?" "He's gone." Jenna grabbed her shoulders. "Steph, listen to me. Men say stuff like that when they're overwhelmed. He'll cool off." Stephanie shook her head, panic rising. "What if he doesn't? What if he's done?" Jenna squeezed harder. "Then you fight. You don't roll over and let him walk. You love him, right?" Stephanie's throat tightened. "More than anything." "Then prove it," Jenna said fiercely. "Go to him, right now." Stephanie blinked. "Leave the party?" Jenna gestured to the empty room. "What party? It's just me and a dead souffle." Stephanie stared at the collapsed dessert, then grabbed her coat. "You're right." Jenna grinned. "Of course I'm right. Go get your man." Mike was still in his car when Stephanie pulled into the lot, tires crunching over snow. She spotted him instantly, head bowed, hands gripping the wheel like he was bracing for impact. Her heart lurched. She parked beside him, jumped out, and yanked his door open before he could react. "Space?" she demanded, breathless. "That's what you text me? Space?" Mike blinked, startled. "Steph, no," she cut in, eyes blazing. "You don't get to pull the space card without explaining. Not after 5 years. Not after everything we've built." Mike opened his mouth, closed it, then sighed. "I just needed time." "Time for what?" Stephanie shot back. "To decide if you still love me?" Mike flinched. "Steph, because if that's what this is," she said, voice trembling, "then tell me. Don't leave me guessing." Mike stared at her, words tangled in his throat. He wanted to say he loved her. He wanted to say he wasn't going anywhere. But the fear was still there, sharp and raw. Stephanie's eyes softened. "I messed up," she whispered. "Last night, I should have thanked you. I should have shouted your name from the rooftops. You're the reason I graduated. You're the reason I'm standing here. And I acted like you didn't matter. I'm so sorry." Mike's chest tightened. He hadn't expected that, hadn't expected her to see it, to own it. He swallowed hard. "Steph." She stepped closer, tears glinting in her eyes. "You matter, Mike. More than anyone. More than anything. Please don't doubt that." Mike stared at her, the knot in his chest unraveling slowly. He believed her. He wanted to believe her. But the hurt was still there, lingering like a bruise. Stephanie reached for his hand, her grip warm and desperate. "Come home," she whispered. "Let me fix this." Mike hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Okay." Stephanie exhaled in relief, her shoulders sagging. "Okay," she echoed, squeezing his hand like she'd never let go. Chapter 8. The big gesture gone wrong. Stephanie Rogers had never worked so hard to make something perfect. The apartment looked like Pinterest exploded. Twinkling lights strung across the walls, a banner reading "You're the man." "Thanks, Jenna," and a cake so decadent it could have starred in its own reality show. The slideshow was queued up on her laptop, ready to play snapshots of Mike's quiet heroics. Late-night study sessions, grocery runs, dinners he'd cooked when she was buried in textbooks. This was it. Her grand gesture. Her redemption. Guests trickled in, her parents, Mike's parents, Jenna with an armful of balloons, and a few close friends. The room buzzed with chatter and laughter, but Stephanie's stomach was a knot of nerves. Mike was in the bedroom changing out of his work clothes. He'd agreed to come home after their parking lot showdown, but he hadn't said much since. His silence was a storm cloud hovering over her perfect party. "Steph," Jenna whispered, sidling up with a tray of appetizers. "He's here." "He's not smiling." Stephanie winced. "He'll smile when he sees the slideshow." Jenna eyed the laptop. "You sure about this? Feels risky." Stephanie squared her shoulders. "It's not risky. It's romantic." Jenna muttered. "Romantic and risky are cousins." Before Stephanie could reply, Mike emerged from the hallway, freshly showered, wearing a crisp button-down that made her heart ache. He looked good, too good for someone who might be planning an emotional exit. His expression was polite, guarded, like a man walking into a meeting he didn't schedule. "Hey," Stephanie said softly, crossing the room. "You look amazing." Mike offered a faint smile. "Thanks." Stephanie squeezed his hand, her pulse racing. "Just trust me." Okay? He nodded, but his eyes flicked around the room, taking in the decorations, the crowd, the banner screaming "You're the man," in glittery letters. His jaw tightened. Stephanie swallowed hard. Let's start. The lights dimmed. The chatter hushed. Stephanie stood at the front, heart pounding, microphone in hand, because Jenna insisted a mic made it official. Thank you all for coming, Stephanie began, voice trembling slightly. Tonight isn't about me. It's about someone who deserves more credit than I could ever give. She turned to Mike, her eyes shining. Mike, you've been my rock, my cheerleader, my everything. I wouldn't be here without you. And I'm sorry, so sorry, for not saying that last night. A murmur rippled through the room. Stephanie clicked the laptop and the slideshow began. Photos flashed across the screen. Mike carrying grocery bags, Mike hunched over her laptop, Mike asleep on the couch with a textbook on his chest. Sweet, ordinary moments that told the story she'd failed to tell. Stephanie glanced at him, hoping for a smile. Instead, Mike's expression was unreadable. Stone still, eyes shadowed, her chest tightened. You matter, she said softly, voice cracking. More than anyone. The slideshow ended. Applause filled the room. Stephanie exhaled, relief flooding her. This was it. This was the fix. Then Jenna, bless her chaotic soul, grabbed the mic. And now karaoke. Stephanie blinked. Wait, what? Jenna grinned, plugging in the machine. Celebration needs music. Before Stephanie could protest, the speakers blared to life with an off-key rendition of I Will Survive. Her dad was singing, loudly, offbeat. Guests laughed, clapping along. The room erupted into chaos. Balloons bouncing, people dancing, someone spilling wine on the rug. Stephanie turned to Mike, panic rising. I didn't plan this part. Mike's lips curved, not into a smile, but something tight, almost bitter. Looks like a party. It's not, Stephanie started, but the karaoke machine screeched, cutting her off. The screen froze mid-lyric, then flashed an error message. System failure. The speakers emitted a sound like a dying robot. Guests laughed harder. Jenna scrambled to fix it, tripping over a balloon. Stephanie's mom tried to help, unplugging the wrong cord and killing the lights. The room plunged into darkness. Someone screamed. The cake toppled off the counter with a tragic splat. Stephanie stood frozen in the chaos, heart sinking. This was supposed to be perfect. This was supposed to save them. Instead, it looked like a sitcom gone wrong. The lights flickered back on. Mike was standing by the door, coat in hand. Mike! Stephanie rushed toward him, voice breaking. Please don't go. He turned, eyes heavy with something that made her stomach twist. Steph, I appreciate what you're trying to do. But this, he gestured to the room, the banner, the balloons. It feels like pity. Stephanie's breath caught. Pity? No. God, no. This is love. Mike shook his head slowly. It feels like you're trying to make up for something you didn't think mattered until I said something. Stephanie's throat burned. Because I was stupid. Because I assumed you knew how much you mean to me. Mike's jaw tightened. I don't want a slideshow, Steph. I want a partner who sees me without needing a reminder. The words hit like a punch. Stephanie's eyes blurred. I do see you. Mike looked at her for a long moment, then opened the door. I need air. And then he was gone. Stephanie stood in the doorway, heart pounding, chaos swirling behind her. Jenna appeared at her side, eyes wide. Steph. Stephanie swallowed hard, tears spilling. I think I just lost him. Jenna squeezed her arm. Then go get him. Stephanie grabbed her coat, ignoring the mess, the guests, the ruined cake. She bolted into the cold night, snow crunching under her boots, heart hammering like a drum. Mike was halfway down the block when Stephanie caught up, breathless. Mike, stop. He turned, snowflakes clinging to his hair, his expression torn between anger and ache. Steph, no, she said, voice shaking. You don't get to walk away without hearing me. Mike's shoulders stiffened. I heard you. Not all of it, Stephanie shot back. You think this was pity? It wasn't. It was panic. Because I love you so much it scares me. Because the thought of losing you makes me feel like I can't breathe. Mike's jaw worked, but he said nothing. Stephanie stepped closer, tears freezing on her cheeks. You're not my backup plan. You're not my safety net. You're my everything. And if I've made you doubt that, then I'll spend the rest of my life proving it. Mike stared at her, the fight draining from his eyes. Snow fell softly around them, muffling the world. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Mike exhaled, slow and shaky. Steph. She held her breath. I don't want grand gestures, he said quietly. I just want you to see me, every day. Not just when you're scared. Stephanie nodded, tears spilling. I do. I swear I do. Mike looked at her for another beat, then reached out, pulling her into his arms. She clung to him like a lifeline, sobbing into his coat as snowflakes melted in her hair. For the first time in days, Mike felt the knot in his chest loosen. Maybe they could fix this. Maybe love was enough if they both learned how to show it. Chapter 9. The heart-to-heart. Snow blanketed the park like a fresh page, soft and untouched, muffling the world into silence. Mike sat on a weathered bench, his breath curling in pale clouds, hands shoved deep into his coat pockets. He'd walked here after the chaos of the party, needing space to think, but space hadn't brought clarity. It had only brought cold. Footsteps crunched behind him. He didn't need to turn to know who it was. "Mike," Stephanie said softly, her voice carrying through the stillness. "Please don't run from me." He closed his eyes for a beat, then looked up. She stood there, cheeks flushed from the wind, hair dusted with snowflakes like tiny stars. Her eyes were wide, pleading, and Mike felt his chest tighten. "I'm not running," he said quietly. "Just sitting." Stephanie gave a shaky laugh. "Sitting dramatically." Mike's lips twitched despite himself. "Guess so." She crossed the snow and sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders brushed. For a moment, they just breathed, the silence heavy but not hostile. Stephanie stared at the frozen pond ahead, where ducks huddled like disgruntled commuters. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." Mike didn't answer right away. He watched a snowflake land on his glove, melt into nothing. "Steph, do you know why last night hurt so much?" She turned to him, eyes glistening. "Because I didn't thank you." Mike shook his head slowly. "Not just that. Because it made me wonder if you see me, really see me, or if I'm just background." Stephanie's throat tightened. "You're not background. You're the whole damn picture." Mike let out a breath that fogged the air. "Then why did it feel like I didn't exist?" Stephanie swallowed hard. "Because I was stupid. Because I assumed you knew how much you mean to me. I thought it was obvious." Mike's jaw clenched. "It wasn't." "I know," she said, voice cracking. "And when I realized, God, Mike, I felt sick. You've given me everything. Your time, your energy, your love, and I made you feel invisible. That's on me." Mike stared at her, the ache in his chest sharp and stubborn. "I don't want grand gestures, Steph. I don't need parties or slideshows. I just need us, day to day. I need to feel like we're a team." Stephanie nodded fiercely. "We are. We always were. I just forgot to say it out loud." Mike gave a humorless laugh. "Words matter." "I know," she whispered, "and I'll say them. Every day if I have to." Mike looked at her then, really looked, at the tears freezing on her lashes, at the way her hands trembled in her lap. She wasn't faking this. She wasn't brushing it off. She was terrified of losing him, and that mattered. Before he could speak, a blur of fur barreled toward them. A golden retriever, tongue lolling, eyes bright. It skidded to a stop in front of Mike, tail wagging like a metronome, then lunged and snatched his glove clean off his hand. "Hey!" Mike yelped, half rising as the dog bounded away, glove dangling from its mouth like a trophy. Stephanie burst out laughing, the sound breaking through the tension like sunlight. "Oh my God. Did that dog just steal your glove?" Mike stared after the retreating thief. "Apparently." Stephanie giggled harder, clutching her stomach. "You look so offended." Mike shook his head, a reluctant smile tugging at his lips. "That was my favorite glove." "Guess he needed it more," Stephanie teased, wiping her eyes. Mike sat back down, chuckling softly. The absurdity of it, the dog, the glove, the timing, felt like the universe reminding him not to take everything so seriously. Life was messy. Love was messy. But maybe that was okay. Stephanie sobered, her laughter fading into a soft smile. "See? Even the universe wants us to lighten up." Mike glanced at her, his heart twisting. "Steph." She reached for his bare hand, her fingers warm against his cold skin. "I love you," she said simply. "Not because you make my life easier. Not because you supported me through school. I love you because you're you. Because you're steady and kind and funny and mine." Mike's throat tightened. "I love you too." Stephanie's eyes shimmered. "Then don't give up on us." Mike exhaled slowly, the knot in his chest loosening at last. "I'm not giving up. I just needed to know we're on the same page." Stephanie squeezed his hand. "We are. And if I ever make you doubt that again, you have permission to steal my gloves." Mike laughed, the sound warm and real. "Deal." They sat there for a while, watching snow drift across the pond, their hands clasped like an anchor. The dog returned eventually, dropping the soggy glove at Mike's feet with a proud wag. Mike picked it up, shaking his head. "Guess he's a romantic too," Stephanie said, grinning. Mike smiled back, and for the first time in days he felt like maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. Chapter 10. The reset. The apartment was quiet when they returned, the kind of quiet that felt like a truce. Snow clung to their coats, melting into tiny puddles on the hardwood floor. Mike hung his jacket, glancing around at the remnants of chaos. The toppled balloons, the banner screaming "You're the man." In glitter, the cake lying like a fallen soldier on the counter. Stephanie winced. "So, this looks like a crime scene." Mike chuckled softly. "A festive crime scene." She laughed, the sound shaky but real. "I'll clean it up tomorrow." Mike nodded, slipping off his shoes. No rush. For a moment they just stood there, the weight of the past few days pressing down. Then Stephanie took a breath, squared her shoulders, and disappeared into the bedroom without a word. Mike frowned, sinking onto the couch. He wasn't sure what to expect anymore. Another speech? Another slideshow? He didn't want grand gestures. He wanted something simple, something real. 10 minutes later, Stephanie returned, holding a folded piece of paper. Her hands trembled slightly as she crossed the room and placed it in his lap. "What's this?" Mike asked, brow furrowing. "A letter," Stephanie said softly, "because I'm better with words when I can write them down." Mike stared at the paper, then at her. "Steph, just read it," she whispered, curling up beside him. Mike unfolded the page, his eyes scanning the neat handwriting. "Mike, I love you. I've said it before, but not enough, not in the ways that matter. Last night wasn't about forgetting you. It was about assuming you knew, and that was my mistake. You've been my anchor, my safe place, my biggest cheerleader. You worked extra hours so I could chase my dreams. You proofread papers when you were exhausted. You cooked dinner when I was drowning in deadlines. You gave me more than I ever deserved, and I acted like it was obvious. It wasn't obvious. It should have been spoken, shouted, written in the sky. So here it is in ink. I see you. I appreciate you. I love you. Not for what you do, but for who you are. And if I ever make you doubt that again, I'll spend every day proving you wrong. Forever yours, Steph." Mike's throat tightened as he finished. He set the letter down carefully, like it was fragile. "Steph." She looked at him, eyes shimmering. "I mean every word." Mike exhaled slowly, the knot in his chest unraveling for good. "It's perfect." Stephanie smiled faintly. "You're perfect." Mike laughed softly. "Far from it." She grinned. "Fine. You're perfect-ish." He chuckled, then reached for her hand, pulling her close. "Thank you." Stephanie leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "I almost lost you." Mike kissed her hair gently. "You didn't." They sat like that for a while, the quiet warm and easy. Then, out of nowhere, Mike stood holding out his hand. "Dance with me." Stephanie blinked. "Dance? Here? Why not?" Mike said, grinning. "We've got space. We've got questionable ambience." Stephanie laughed, slipping her hand into his. "You're ridiculous. Always," Mike said, pulling her into the center of the room. He grabbed his phone, queued up a song, soft, slow, something that felt like home, and set it on the counter. The music filled the room, gentle and sweet. Mike wrapped his arms around her, and they swayed, bare feet brushing against the hardwood. Stephanie melted into him, her cheek against his chest, her heart sinking with his. "This is better than a slideshow," Mike murmured. Stephanie smiled. "Way better." They spun slowly, laughter bubbling when Mike attempted a dramatic dip and nearly toppled them both. Stephanie shrieked, clutching his shoulders. "You're going to kill us." "Worth it," Mike said, grinning. Then, mid-spin, his foot caught on something. A squeaky dog toy Jenna had brought as a gag gift. Mike stumbled, Stephanie yelped, and they collapsed onto the couch in a heap of laughter. "Oh my God," Stephanie gasped, tears streaming from laughing so hard. "We're a disaster." Mike grinned, breathless. "A perfect disaster." Stephanie curled against him, still giggling. "Don't ever leave me." Mike kissed her forehead, his voice steady and sure. "Never." Later, as they lay tangled on the couch, the music still playing softly, Stephanie whispered, "New Year's Eve is next week." Mike smiled. "Yeah. Can we make a resolution?" she asked. "Anything. Promise me we'll never stop saying the things that matter," Stephanie said. "Even when we think they're obvious." Mike nodded, his heart full. "Deal." And as snow fell outside, blanketing the world in quiet, they held each other close. Two imperfect people choosing each other, again and again. Chapter 11. Wedding planning chaos. Stephanie Rogers had always imagined wedding planning as a dreamy montage, soft music, champagne toasts, her and Mike laughing over color swatches. Reality was a battlefield of opinions, spreadsheets, and one very aggressive florist who insisted peonies were non-negotiable. Stephanie sat at the dining table, laptop open, surrounded by a hurricane of bridal magazines and sticky notes. Her mom hovered nearby with a binder labeled Operation Wedding. Jenna sprawled on the couch scrolling Pinterest, and Mike was leaning against the counter, sipping coffee like a man observing a natural disaster from a safe distance. "Okay," Stephanie said, tapping her pen against the table. "Venue. We need to lock it down." Her mom perked up. "The country club is lovely." Jenna snorted. "Lovely and boring. You need something Instagram-worthy." Stephanie groaned. "I don't care about Instagram." Jenna gasped like she'd heard blasphemy. "Steph, it's your wedding. Hashtags are mandatory." Mike chuckled. "Pretty sure vows matter more than hashtags." Jenna waved him off. "You're adorable, Mick." Mike sighed. "Still Mike." Stephanie grinned despite herself. "Ignore her. She's in hashtag mode." Her mom flipped through her binder. "What about the botanical garden? Flowers everywhere. Very romantic." Mike raised an eyebrow. "And very expensive." Stephanie winced. "True." Jenna leaned forward, eyes sparkling. "Hear me out, beach wedding." Stephanie stared. In December? Jenna shrugged. Blankets are a vibe. Mike laughed. A vibe called hypothermia. Stephanie dropped her head into her hands. Why is this so hard? Mike crossed the room, resting a hand on her shoulder. Because you're trying to make everyone happy. Stephanie looked up, meeting his steady gaze. Including you. Mike smiled softly. Steph, I don't care if we get married in a parking lot. As long as it's you, I'm good. Her chest warmed, tension melting. You're too perfect. Perfect-ish, Mike corrected, grinning. Jenna groaned dramatically. Ugh. You two are nauseating. Stephanie laughed, tossing a pillow at her. Help or hush. 2 hours later, they had a tentative plan. The botanical garden, because Mom won the venue war. A winter theme with twinkling lights, and a color palette Jenna described as moody chic. Mike had contributed exactly one suggestion. Can we have good food? Which Stephanie wrote in all caps. As the meeting wound down, Stephanie felt a flicker of relief. They were doing this. They were moving forward. After everything, the doubts, the tears, the snowstorm heart to heart, they were building something new, something solid. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mike's mom. Do you want me to handle the seating chart? Stephanie stared at it, horror creeping in. Seating charts were the stuff of nightmares. She typed back quickly, let's discuss later, then shoved the phone aside before it could ruin her fragile peace. Mike leaned down, kissing her temple. You okay? Stephanie smiled. Better now. He squeezed her hand. We've got this. And for the first time in weeks, Stephanie believed him. 3 days later, Stephanie and Mike met with the baker. A cheerful woman named Linda who spoke about frosting like it was a religion. Stephanie had her heart set on a classic 3-tier design. Mike just wanted chocolate. Linda unveiled a sample cake with a flourish. Voila! Stephanie gasped. It's pink. Linda beamed. Blush is very in. Mike frowned. It looks like a flamingo exploded. Stephanie stifled a laugh. We were thinking ivory. Linda's smile faltered. Ivory is less festive. Mike muttered. Festive isn't edible. Stephanie elbowed him, whispering, behave. Linda launched into a passionate monologue about buttercream versus fondant while Mike doodled motorcycles on the order form. Stephanie caught his eye and grinned. He grinned back, and in that moment the chaos didn't matter. They were in it together, pink cake and all. By the time they left the bakery, Stephanie was exhausted but happy. Mike held the door open, his hand brushing hers, and she felt that familiar spark, the one that had carried them through 5 years, through college stress and career shifts, and one very messy misunderstanding. Next stop, Mike said. Tux fittings. Stephanie groaned. Pray for me. Mike smirked. Pray for the tailor. Chapter 12. Honeymoon misadventures. The honeymoon was supposed to be flawless. Stephanie had envisioned sun-soaked beaches, fruity drinks with umbrellas, and Instagram-worthy sunsets. Mike had envisioned sleep. Lots of sleep. After months of wedding chaos, both agreed on one thing. They needed a break. They chose Santorini, a postcard-perfect paradise of whitewashed buildings and sapphire seas. It sounded dreamy. It looked dreamy. It was mostly dreamy, until reality decided to crash the party. Please tell me you're joking? Stephanie whispered, staring at the baggage carousel like it had personally betrayed her. Mike squinted at the empty conveyor belt. Nope, definitely no luggage. Stephanie groaned, clutching her carry-on like a lifeline. Our clothes, our toiletries, my entire honeymoon wardrobe. Mike shrugged. We've got the essentials. Stephanie shot him a look. Essentials? I have one sundress and a pair of sneakers. Mike grinned. You'll start a trend. Stephanie glared. This is not funny. Mike held up his hands. Okay. We'll buy stuff. Adventure shopping. Stephanie muttered. Adventure shopping sounds like a punishment. 2 hours later, they were in a tiny boutique where Stephanie tried to negotiate with a shopkeeper who spoke zero English and a lot of hand gestures. Mike stood nearby, holding up a shirt that looked suspiciously like a tablecloth. Steph, he said deadpan. Thoughts? Stephanie groaned. If you wear that, I'm filing for annulment. Mike grinned. Noted. They left with 2 questionable outfits, a bottle of sunscreen, and a story they'd laugh about later, probably. Dinner that night was at a cliffside taverna with views so stunning they almost made up for the luggage fiasco. Stephanie ordered confidently from the menu, pointing to a dish she thought was grilled chicken. It wasn't. When the plate arrived, it featured something tentacled. Stephanie stared. Mike blinked. Is that an octopus? Stephanie whimpered. I thought it said pollo. Mike chuckled. Pulpo, babe. Pollo is chicken. Pulpo is that. Stephanie dropped her head into her hands. I'm going to starve. Mike G. Rined, spearing a piece. Or embrace adventure. Stephanie watched him chew thoughtfully. How is it? Mike shrugged. Chewy, like a tire, at saltier. Stephanie groaned. I hate you. Mike laughed, sliding the plate toward her. Come on. 1 bite. Stephanie eyed the tentacle like it might fight back. If I die, tell my mom I loved her. By day 3, things improved. Their luggage arrived. Hallelujah. and Stephanie finally wore the sundress she'd been dreaming about. They spent the morning exploring winding streets, snapping photos, and eating pastries that tasted like heaven. That afternoon, Mike suggested a hike to a secret viewpoint. Stephanie agreed, because romance, but halfway up the trail, she realized hike was code for near-death experience. Mike, she panted, clutching a rock for dear life. This is not a viewpoint. This is Everest. Mike grinned, barely winded. Almost there. Stephanie glared. If I fall, I'm haunting you. Mike laughed, offering his hand. Deal. When they finally reached the top, Stephanie forgot her threats. The view was breathtaking. Sun melting into the sea. Sky painted in gold and rose. Mike slipped an arm around her waist, and for a moment, everything else faded. The luggage, the octopus, the chaos. It was just them, standing on the edge of the world. Worth it, Mike murmured. Stephanie smiled, heart full. Always. On the way down, they encountered a local offering donkey rides. Stephanie, still sore from the hike, jumped at the chance. Mike was less enthusiastic. Steph, he said, eyeing the donkey. That thing hates me. Stephanie laughed. It does not. The donkey glared at Mike like he owed it money. Mike sighed. Fine. 5 minutes later, Mike was clinging to the saddle while the donkey trotted downhill like a creature possessed. Stephanie laughed so hard she nearly fell off hers. Stop laughing, Mike yelled, gripping the reins. This thing is trying to kill me. Stephanie wheezed, tears streaming. You look like a cowboy in a rom-com. Mike groaned. This is not a rom-com. This is a horror movie. That night, they collapsed into bed, muscles aching, cheeks sore from laughing. Stephanie curled against Mike, whispering, best honeymoon ever. Mike chuckled. Even with the octopus? Stephanie grinned. Especially with the octopus. And as the moonlight spilled across the room, they realized something. Perfection wasn't the point. The misadventures, the laughter, the messy, unpredictable moments. That was where love lived. Chapter 13. Epilogue. 1 year later. The restaurant hummed with laughter and clinking glasses, just like it had a year ago. Same golden lights, same cozy warmth, same festive buzz of New Year's Eve. But for Mike and Stephanie, everything felt different. Lighter, steadier, stronger. Stephanie adjusted the strap of her black dress, glancing around the table where family and friends gathered. Her parents were chatting with Mike's mom about holiday recipes. Jenna was snapping selfies with a sparkler, and Mike was laughing with her dad, his smile easy and real. No storm clouds, no guarded eyes. Just Mike, her husband now, her partner, her best friend. Stephanie's heart swelled. They'd made it through the mess, the doubts, the tears. They'd learned how to speak the words that mattered, even when they felt obvious. And tonight, she was going to prove it. She stood, tapping her glass lightly. Conversations hushed, heads turned. Mike looked up, brows lifting in surprise. Stephanie smiled, her voice clear and steady. Last year, I stood in this restaurant and gave a speech that, well, let's just say it was incomplete. Laughter rippled around the table. Jenna grinned. Understatement of the century. Stephanie chuckled. I thanked my parents, my friends, everyone who supported me through college. But I forgot to thank the one person who made all of it possible. Her gaze locked on Mike, and the room faded until it was just them. Mike, she said softly, you've been my rock since day one. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You worked extra hours so I could chase my dreams. You proofread papers, cooked dinners, and held me together when I was falling apart. You didn't just support me, you carried me. And I'll never forget that again. Mike's eyes shimmered, his smile slow and warm. Stephanie felt her throat tighten, but she pushed through. So tonight, she continued, lifting her glass, I want to say what I should have said a year ago. Thank you, for everything. For loving me, for choosing me, for being my partner in every sense of the word. I love you more than words can hold. The table erupted in applause, cheers echoing through the restaurant. Jenna hooped like someone had scored a touchdown. Stephanie laughed, tears glinting in her eyes, and sat down as Mike reached for her hand. You didn't have to do that, he murmured, squeezing her fingers. I wanted to, Stephanie whispered, because you matter. Every day. Mike smiled, leaning in to kiss her softly. So do you. As midnight approached, the staff handed out sparklers for the countdown. Jenna, in true Jenna fashion, lit hers early and nearly set a napkin on fire. Jenna! Stephanie yelped, grabbing the napkin before it ignited. Jenna grinned sheepishly. Festive chaos? Mike chuckled. Some things never change. Stephanie laughed, shaking her head. At least it's not a karaoke machine. Mike smirked. Small mercies. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8, and Stephanie leaned against Mike, her heart full. A year ago, she'd left this restaurant wondering if she was losing him. Tonight, she was certain of one thing. They'd found their way back. Stronger, better, together. 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year. The room exploded in cheers, sparklers fizzing, champagne flowing. Mike kissed her as confetti rained down, and Stephanie thought, This is it. This is everything. Not perfection. Not grand gestures. Just love, messy, funny, real. And that was more than enough.